What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and as promised, I'm continuing on with my GenCon 2023 post-coverage. This time we're talking about the Deck of Many Things, or the Book of Many Things. Basically, this awesome book that we knew that's coming out later this year that we previously had basically no info on. We got a ton of it in this panel. I live tweeted the entire thing, so I'll be going through those tweets and providing a little bit more nuance and stuff that I remember that I wasn't able to get in text while I'm trying to do this rapid fire while information is coming out. Let's go ahead and jump into these live tweets. So I'm going to zoom it in here. So it's I have this one here, right? Get ready for the Deck of Many Things panel. Here is everybody that you can see that was on the panel. And then we had a lot of slides showing off a lot of really awesome art from the book. So again, as mentioned, here is the team that's bringing you the Book of Many Things, or the Deck of Many Things box set. So we got a little bit of a history lesson on the Deck of Many Things itself. Originally, it was only 18 cards. We're talking like the OG original creation of it. 18 cards based on playing cards, and they didn't have any specific names. You guys might know things like the Throne card, or the Flame card, or what have you. They were just face playing cards, and none of them had actual names. But it always had this mentality of being half good, half bad. And you could always draw however many cards from it you wanted. That's something that stayed regardless of edition. Right? It says it first appeared in 1975 in Greyhawk, expanded from 18 to 22 cards, and then those cards got names. Again, Fates card, Rogue card, so on. Sometimes it was an artifact, sometimes it wasn't. I really like these little history lesson pieces in these panels. They were kind of nice to have. Plenty of speculation, but it never had a definitive origin. So I saw some comments about this already, so I just wanted to talk about this. There was speculation on the canonical origin of the Deck of Many Things. Yes, the product, the item in the world of Dungeons and Dragons existed in Greyhawk in 1975. Yes, but the lore canonical reason in the universe as to when and why it existed was never hard defined. There were allusions and rumors. Nothing's concrete until now. But it's always changed, and it says you can change it too, because they're introducing deck building rules for the Deck of Many Things. For example, one of the chapters, it looks like all the chapters in the actual book itself, each chapter is tied to one of the cards, like here's the Flames chapter, the Skull chapter, and so on. So they said, the Flames card is one where you get, you anger, like you become the enemy of like some great fiend. They provide you 3 different fiend options to be the thing that would seek out your players. Another thing that I want to point out that is prevalent throughout the entirety of this book is that everything you see in the book itself can be used standalone. It doesn't have to be necessarily tied to the Deck of Many Things. Now, I realize a lot of you out there are like, yeah, duh, Ted, but there are people who are like, well, I can't use it because I'm not using the Deck of Many Things. No, you can obviously use these 3 fiends in any game you want. It doesn't have to be tied to the deck. But basically, the main goal of this book is to remove the mysticism isn't the right word, but when you're the DM and you're running the Deck of Many Things, and maybe you never will, so this won't apply to you, but I have run it, and like sometimes it leaves a lot open, and that can be good, but it can also be like a little terrifying when they're like, yeah, there's souls trapped in the void. It's like, well, now what do I do? Answers for that kind of question are provided in this book to make your life as the Dungeon Master easier. So what do you get in the box set itself? 66, they've expanded the deck from the original 22 now out to 66 cards. 66 lavishly illustrated tarot-sized cards, tripling the size of the original deck. An 80-page card reference guide showing how to interpret the cards and use them as oracle cards or to create adventures. More on that later. And a 192-page Book of Many Things filled with D&D contents. This is like, there's a card, like a guide about how to run the cards. And then there's like a traditional source book and then the cards themselves. 50 plus magic items, 30 plus monster stat blocks, full adventure locations. Here you can see a handful of the people there in the panel showing off. This is the box set. Here is, if we were to go to the next one, the cards in the little card box that they come in. Here is the card reference guide. And then here are some up close to the cards. They really didn't do it justice, but they do have like a gold, almost lenticular foil on them. They're very, very pretty cards. Here's the limited edition cover art for the local game store version. It says that art and the front cover art here depict this female paladin that you can see right here. Uriel is, okay, so this is something else they mentioned. None of the Deck of Many Things cards feature characters per se. They're all like generic, like the skull, the rogue. But there was one called Uriel, spelled Euryale, and this is the one with the Medusa face on it that lowers your saving throws. And they said they wanted to canonically make that into a character, and you can see her right here. They said she's a kind Medusa druid, so she's like bucking against traditional Gorgon Medusa tropes. And then Asteria here is her human female paladin, like sister found family situation. And they told us that she challenged a god of fate to rewrite her story. She is the one who's going to be like the one writing the notes in the columns. So you see how like we have Bigby's Glory of the Giants. You have like little like side notes from Bigby. We had it in Xanathar's. We had it in Fizban's, Tasha's, and so on. So Asteria, it's her POV. She's the POV character for this book. She is the first canonically autistic D&D character. I know I've seen a bunch of you out there in the comments saying things like, no, it's not. I can only tell you what the literal team from Dungeons & Dragons said, and they are stating that Asteria is the first canonically autistic D&D character. That's what we're going to go with because that's what they told us. So she is directly linked to the origin of the Deck of Many Things. If you see it right here, right, she challenged the God of Fate to rewrite her story. It was a little back and forth, but basically from what I can understand, she beseeched the Greyhawk goddess of fate, Istis, to like rewrite her story, and in the process of that beseechment led to the creation, the canonical creation of the Deck of Many Things. So it says, she's the one who created the Deck of Many Things, and her origin story and how she created the book is the final chapter of it. Again, remember I told you that basically each chapter is a chapter on one of the cards. There are now 66 cards. The last chapter is the history of the deck itself. We talked about the 80-page card reference guide. It says a few of the cards' names have changed, but the effects have been kept the same. For example, they renamed the Idiot card the Puzzle card. Function's still the same, just a change in the name. Right, it says the classic deck and more. 22 classic cards from the Deck of Many Things. These are the ones you know in the 5e Player's Hand, or the 5e Dungeon Master's Guide. 44 more new cards to expand the deck and enable deck building. Heroes, treasures, monsters, and landmarks. That's sort of the categories these cards fall into. Game effects are detailed in the Book of Many Things. And again, they have the unique gold foil we mentioned, and they're the size of standard tarot cards. There are 4 heroes, 14 monsters, 1 for each monster type, 4 treasures, and 22 landmarks. That's the breakdown of the different categories. It also says there are multiple decks. These are, again, magic items. They flat out said if you want to get your Gambit on, there's a deck of cards that you can basically throw in the cards and they blow up. They also mentioned that there's a house of cards that can turn into basically like a temporary abode for you to stay in. I think that was actually a spell in one of the Unearthed Arcanas. It looks like they might have turned it into a magic item instead. You can also customize the deck because we talked about deck building rules. So if you really want to use the Deck of Many Things but don't want it to totally ruin your game, they have rules for deck building to make like a low-level Deck of Many Things, possibly for, lower-level players to get introduced to it. Or if you want to be a real dick, you can just put in all bad cards and then nobody can win. It's like when people buy the bags of the worst Birdie Bots every flavor beans just to try it out and trick each other. You can make a Deck of Many Things that's just all bad. And then, I don't know if you're going to force your players to draw from it or not, but either way. It says the variety, the guidebook, that 80-page guidebook, has a variety of spreads for putting out the cards, 1 card, 3 card, that you or the players could do in-game, right? So you could use it as, like, fortune telling, right, like that the players do. Again, taking inspiration from the Taraka deck, from Curse of Strahd, same kind of a thing. And then they also mentioned that there's this adventure spread, which is kind of what you see here, which lets you use cards to design an adventure. Basically, the first card's starting location, then there's an inciting event that starts you to adventure, journey cards, challenge cards, and then eventually it ends with a treasure and its guardian. So basically, you can use the cards in... this is not a new original concept. There are tons of awesome companies out there that use card-based systems to develop plot points and things. It just seems like WotC's getting on that train, but using the Deck of Many Things to kind of be a double whammy, get you this new stuff, but then also possibly tap in and try to maybe, or if this is the first time people are hearing about it, it probably sounds very novel, but people have been doing these kind of cards to provide information and make things easy for DMs. I think I actually have any in arm's reach. I usually have a stack of them somewhere from a variety of different companies. All right, so inside the guide itself, this is again the 80-page guidebook. Every card is a person, creature or trap, place, treasure, situation with reversed meanings. So basically, like there's one, then you can invert it and it means something else. So there's multiple different ways to interpret the cards. They've also included a table to give you different fortune teller options for someone who could be pulling the cards themselves. Here are some of the heroes. The art director said it was kind of fun being the art director because you get to decide what gets displayed on the cards. For example, for the monsters, as I said, there's one for each monster. That's the art director's kind of like favorite monster of each type are the ones you're going to see on these cards. Then they talked about there are some connections between the cards. You can kind of see that the star, sun, comet, moon are all like the same location with just different, astronomy kind of symbols here. It says, they mentioned that this moon card represents an entire thieves guild made of werewolves, so you need to get bit to join, and they've added a were-vulture as a new creature type. Here are some treasure cards. They said there's a lot of Easter eggs in there. Right? For example, this is a dragon lance. This is the black staff, stuff like that. Here's some more landmarks here. A door, the worst, most dangerous of all landmarks for D&D players, a door. And so much more. An origin story for the deck, how to introduce the deck without breaking your game, new powers for the deck, patrons, rivals, adversaries, and allies, extra dimensional dungeons and sandboxes, spells, magic items, character options, many more ways to use the cards, which again is great. It says maybe you can use the cards to maybe foretell something that happens to your character rather than it being reactionary. Like you draw the card and it's like a good thing or a bad thing, and this is now like a foretelling, not like them actually drawing the card and then bam, the thing happens immediately. Just different ways to interpret it. They also have a means for creating your background, drawing the cards from it. And they mentioned a couple options like the Donjon and the Void, right? The Donjon is you're trapped in a prison. The Void is your soul is trapped somewhere else. They have maps for those. They're like, hey, what's the Donjon look like? There's a Donjon map, right? They also said if, pull the throne card and get to have a keep, there's a map of a keep. And all the ghosts that are in the keep, they have them all in there. So, like, you as the DM don't have to try to come up with this on the fly. You already love chaos. Clearly, you introduced the deck of many things into your game. So anything that this book can do to help settle the chaos a little bit is definitely going to be appreciated. They also said they have rules for even someone who has their soul trapped in the void, rules for that person to still play at the table and be involved, which is pretty neat. And then lastly, they mentioned the Skull chapter, which is the Skull's the card where if you pull it, you have to fight an avatar of death by yourself. And they basically said anyone who's ever been killed by the Skull card is part of, some undead group. And they can never go to rest, and they form this group and they have the Harrowing Hunt, which is essentially like the Wild Hunt, but they cannot be at peace until the deck of many things is destroyed. So the Harrowing Hunt travels the multiverse seeking out the deck of many things to destroy it. So you could be like an innocent adventurer, just pick up the deck of many things and be like, oh, that's cool. And now you have an entire undead horde coming after you, trying to destroy this deck and possibly you in the process. And that was pretty much it. That was the panel. Now, let me give you a little bit something you didn't know about this because it was hard to say in live tweets. The energy in that room was so positive. Now, again, this was before any of the AI stuff with Bigby's had kind of come out, or it was still speculative and rumors at that point. So it didn't really stain or sway the opinion of people before they went into this panel. And again, I had been at the rules revision panel earlier in the day, and while there was a lot of good information in that panel, it was very cut and dry. This, people were oohing and ahhing, and chat was, and the audience was interacting. It was a much better panel in that respect. Everybody seemed really excited. Like I said, I don't know if it's just who's on that team or what have you. I know James Wyatt. I didn't know a lot of the other folks, or like I know them kind of by reputation. But James Wyatt was one of the guys who created the original 3.5e Draconomicon. So again, I've mentioned this before, but that's an immediate stamp in my book. So, I don't know if it's just that like the perfect storm of the right people, but this seems like a really good book. Like I'm really excited for this book. I thought I was going to be most excited for Fandelver just to see where they take it, and I am still excited about that. But this one's winning me over with the box set and all that different stuff. I don't know. I'm very curious to hear what your thoughts are. Please let me know them in the comments down below, and I'll see you all next time.